Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. God wanted to see apostles and elders, great most under the wall, and Shalom to the brothers doing the work, sharing truth, pushing his word to the four corners. They had a social media ban for anyone 15 and younger in Australia. You had it being considered, I think, over the past week, and they voted on it and it passed. I think it passed the first house, and now it's passed the second house today. In I can't remember what Senate, but I thought these men had a parliament, but probably not anymore in Australia. But it says this is on AP News. So it says a social media ban for under 16s passes the Australian Senate and will soon be a world first law. So yeah, I think it's the first, because I think they have limits on social media in China. I know they had the gaming limit in China where you can only play a certain amount a week or a day or some shit. But I don't think for what's it called, for just general social media access. Well, even for them, it's like the TikTok they have in China is different. It's the fuck is it called? It's got a different name. But it's ByteDance. It's the same company. It's the same app, but then they just limit. Well, they in China it's completely. It's a very different how they like the content that they let be shown on there, which is why it's like that's something you go on YouTube. They show it off like plainly that it's a completely different mindset. TikTok's of it. TikTok is basically like a weapon. It's been unleashed where it's like it's frying the attention span, frying the what do you call it? Douyin. Yeah, that's the thing. Douyin is the American version. But yeah, so it says a social media ban for children under 16 passed the Australian Senate Thursday and will soon become a world first law. The law will make platforms including TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, Reddit, X, and Instagram liable for fines of up to 50 million Australian dollars for systematic failures to prevent children younger than 16 from holding accounts. So the thing with this as well is the only realistic way to what do you call it? The only realistic way to enforce this would be requiring ID, visual ID or like a credit card or whatever to prove you're of a certain age. And it's part of, I think it's like they mentioned, there was a discussion around it before with, I think it was porn sites as well, where with porn sites, they wanted to restrict access from children, and then we're trying to make it so it's like, okay, they would have to take ID of people and hold ID, like basically an image of your ID connected to your IP or whatever. But then it's all of those means of enforcing it. It basically would destroy online anonymity, and that was part of why people didn't people push back against it. But now with this in Australia, even if it's just in Australia, if every site is like they have to then be like, okay, we're gonna have a certain level of proof that you're over the age of 16 to use the site, and it's like social media sites. Then it could be like, oh, for you to use Twitter, or for you to use TikTok, or for you to use Instagram, you then need to put some form of ID up. Then that's gonna affect everyone, and then that starts destroying the anonymity of online. So it's like if you say and do certain things on, it's like in the UK already, where it's like things tied to what people say in their Facebook accounts already getting kind of people grabbed up and thrown in jail. This, even though it's in what the fuck is it called? In Australia, if it's known like, okay, they keep logs of what account is tied to what person, then the police can go and ask them for it, because there's countless, especially in the UK. I always mention the what's this thing called? The Oyster cards, the Oyster cards for under 18s. It was like under 19s or 19 and under, where you get free travel on what's it called? On the underground up until like age 16, so like school age. But then it requires you to have like your picture on the ID, and then obviously you have to like prove your identity and whatnot, send in certain details. And then when this first came in, this was like 2009 or 8 or some shit, maybe even 7. It was fucking forever ago when it came in. I remember those uh the police going to TFL to prove it's like people that would like shank someone and then jump on a train with their free transport thing. Uh, then you'd have what do you call it? They'll jump on the train with a free transport thing. They'll basically police would go to TFL and be like, okay, yeah, give us. They'll have CCTV of them getting on a train, and then be able to tie it to their identity and say, okay, this was this person because we've got their like Oyster card as well. They tapped it at this time. We've got video footage. Guys are getting thrown in jail, so it's like evidence being used against them. So it's like as soon as that database is built, it's going to be utilized in that way. And obviously Australia, yes, but then it's once they're keeping it on international accounts, then yeah, it's gonna they'll it could be something where they localize it to just Australia. But then even after that, then what? They can easily expand it out. So that's why it's like you see it go through. It's interesting because it's then just like, oh, you kind of thought, well, you wouldn't think they would what do you call that? You wouldn't think they'll go so far, but then they've really managed to push it. Because what's it say? The House has yet to endorse opposition amendments made. Well, okay. So it says the Senate passed the bill 34 votes to 19. The House of Representatives on Wednesday overwhelmingly approved the legislation by 102 votes to 13. So yeah, both the houses passed it. So it was the House of Representatives earlier and it's the Senate now. So it says the House has yet to endorse opposition amendments made in the Senate, but that is a formality since the government has already agreed they will pass. The platforms will have 1 year to work out how they could implement the ban before penalties are enforced. Meta Platforms, which own Facebook and Instagram, said the legislation has been rushed. I think it was for YouTube, the way they've been getting around was even YouTube on the list? No, it wasn't. But I think YouTube already has YouTube Kids, where it's like up until age 13 or something. Because I think it's already the legislation in the US is you can't show ads to someone under the age of 13 or some shit. So YouTube Kids, they've had it with no ads. So then there was talk before of like Instagram doing it, Instagram Kids as well. So you might just see like TikTok Kids, Instagram Kids, or whatever, where it's like up onto the age like 15 and below is meant to be on there, then 16 and above is on the regular apps. But then depending on if they do that, but then even then I think to prove, well, it depends, how the legislation goes through. Because there's what Digital Industry Group Inc., an advocate for the platforms in Australia, said questions remain about the law's impact on children, its technical foundations and scope. The social media ban legislation has been released and passed within a week, and as a result, which is kind of fucking insane, that it took like a week to get through. As a result, no one can confidently explain how it will work in practice. The community and platforms are in the dark about what exactly is required of them. And yeah, that's the thing is I think they I ain't read it for shit. But if they make it, generally when they pass these, they keep things vague. Okay, well, I think this will go into it. So the amendment bolsters privacy. The amendments bolster privacy protection. Platforms would not be allowed to compel users to provide government. Wait. So the amendments bolster privacy protections. Platforms would not be allowed to compel users to provide government issued ID, including passports or driver licenses, nor could they demand digital identification for a government system. The House is scheduled to pass the amendments on Friday, so they're saying they can't demand, government ID, but then what level of ID or what level of, what can they push for? That's the thing, is generally when they keep it vague, then they can, slot something in. And it might just be something like, okay, we have some form of means for where it's meant to apply for children. But then, who even knows? But then even as an adult, you might still have to go through it to prove you're an adult and not a child or some shit. Who knows? But then it's something to look at just because it can, it can spread easily. So it says the House is scheduled to pass the amendment on Friday. Critics of the legislation fear that banning young children from social media will impact the privacy of users who must establish they are older than 16. And yeah, that's the key thing. While the major parties support the ban, many child welfare and mental health advocates are concerned about unintended consequences. Senator David Shoebridge from the Minority Greens Party said mental health experts agreed that the ban could dangerously isolate many children who use social media to find support. Yeah, I wonder if Discord's on there as well, actually. What was it? TikTok, Facebook, Snapchat, X, Instagram. Because Discord's one of them. But then who the fuck knows? The policy will hurt vulnerable young people, blah, blah, blah. So this is a responsibility the company should be fulfilling long ago. Blah, blah, daughter was murdered by a 50-year-old paedophile while pretending to be a teenager online. Yeah, that's kind of, how these things are pushed through anyway. It's done as like we're protecting, we're saving, the children, which obviously social media has been bugging out youths anyway. But then the other aspect of it is like I mentioned earlier, privacy. When privacy comes in, then you start to think like, okay, what are they really after? And as far as with these laws, that's what I always think, man. Famine of the word. Amos 8:11. Behold, the days come, saith the Most High Power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord Jehovah. And that's really where I'll think like, yeah, that's kind of where it's pushing. It's something that can, starts off with, oh, it's for children, it's limited children's access, blah, blah, blah. Then once they've kind of established that, and the thing is they might just establish that in Australia, and then could even say like, oh, it's been done so well. The UK would be somewhere where I don't even think it would be a surprise for it to jump over to the UK. Because as far as for with the UK's been pushing probably the hardest with restricting what people can say and do online and throwing people in jail for that shit. So I wouldn't be surprised if they say, okay, to protect the kids, blah blah blah. We'll adopt it, or they might do something similar. Then it might be with the UK where they think, okay, you need ID, and then just because it's done in one country, then it applies like they're just gonna apply that shit generally. It's like with any of the sites where in one particular country you might need to comply with something, they'll then just make it so everyone that uses it has to comply with that, because that just makes it simpler. So if the government in that country comes to them, they can be like, no, I don't fuck with our money, and then they can keep doing what they're doing. Then it's the core is this Isaiah 11 Isaiah 10:1. It says, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and the right grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And really, yeah, that these laws that are being instated, it's not based off the scriptures, not based off the truth. These things are essentially about Esau setting up his unrighteous decrees, him decreeing, okay, you can deal with X, you can deal with Y, or whatever, and then limiting what what's it called, limiting what people can do to basically have it, move how he desires. And that's really by the whims of the elites, because they're the ones that have influence, that can, lobby these things, push for, what they desire. And then even on social media as well, on these sites, what is kind of allowed to be spoken about, what's promoted, that's linked to, what do you call it, those in charge. Yeah, these laws, it seems like it's being done, for some good, to, to save someone, to be like, oh, the children, blah, 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 blah. But then in reality, it's the way it gets executed on. It's about, control. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom, shalom.